Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating discussion about why C, despite its reputation for performance, isn't ideally suited for SIMD operations. It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've always considered C a powerhouse for performance. So what's the core issue with SIMD and C?
The problem boils down to how C handles function calls and compilations, especially when it comes to things like stepped reductions with lexical scoping. The compiler's approach clashes with the parallel nature of SIMD. Think about a simple sigmoid function, 1 over 1 plus e to the power of negative x. In a language like Haskell, mapping this over an array is straightforward. But in C, the function call itself becomes a bottleneck.
So the act of calling a function, like express, prevents vectorization? That's counterintuitive. I mean, ARM and x86 have vector instructions for basic operations, right?
Precisely. The function call forces a switch in the single thread of execution, breaking the flow needed for SIMD. It's like trying to assemble a car on an assembly line, but every time you need a specific part, you have to stop the whole line and fetch it manually. The elegance of C's compilation model, which works so well in other contexts, falls apart here.
Interesting. So, the article mentions Haskell's sum function as a contrast. How does that relate?
In Haskell, sum exists within the compiler's context. You could theoretically export it as a function, taking a record of functions as arguments. But that's far less efficient than inlining the addition operation. The point is, SIMD needs that compiler-level understanding of the operation, not a separate function call. Map 2, in a SIMD context, can't treat 2 as a standalone function. It needs to see it as a sequence of assembly instructions.
Okay, I see. So it's not just about function calls. It's about the compiler's understanding of the operation's context. It's a fundamental difference in how these languages handle operations.
Exactly. Array languages are naturally better suited for SIMD because they inherently express calculations in a way that maps directly to parallel execution. The article suggests that perhaps we need more fluent compilation methods and better data structures for exporting functions to truly leverage SIMD in C. Apple's OS X, for example, provides functions like vfloat_vex_pf, vfloat_x to partially address this, but it's a workaround, not a solution to the underlying problem.
So is the conclusion that C is inherently unsuitable for SIMD, or is there room for improvement in compilers and approaches?
It's not that C is inherently unsuitable, but its current compilation model presents significant hurdles. The article suggests that improvements in compiler design and potentially new approaches to function representation could bridge the gap. It's a challenge, but not necessarily an insurmountable one. It's a call for innovation in compiler technology, really.
That's a really insightful point. Thanks for breaking down this complex topic. It's clear that the limitations aren't just about C's syntax, but also its underlying compilation model.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Join us tomorrow for another deep dive into the world of technology. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.